And I'm saying a sacrifice season. What are you willing to sacrifice for a season? You'd be shocked what's on the other side of a couple months of freakish discipline and focus.
So thinking back over your life, can you think about a time when you were really chasing after something, a really big goal? Maybe you are on a sports team and you are trying to win the championship. Maybe you have a enormous business goal that you were trying to reach, or maybe it was something like starting a YouTube channel and you have to go through this hard season that just kind of sucks. My friend Bettazani says that you have to go through the suck to get to success. And in today's episode, we're talking about what I think is kind of the sucky part of actually reaching your goals. And that is the law of sacrifice. We're going to be talking about that sacrifice season that can be so hard to get through, but man, the success on the other side is so worth it. My name is Heather Torres, and I am your host of the Think Media Podcast, the #1 podcast to help you grow your YouTube channel and then turn that YouTube channel into a high impact and a high profit online business. And I'm so excited if today is your first time joining us, or if you're returning to the podcast, welcome back. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're getting this content from. So if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening over on Apple or Spotify, hit subscribe so that you make sure you're a part of our Tuesday ritual here, but that you get all of the information that we have for you on the Think Media podcast. And if you're over on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button and let me know in the comments, what season are you in right now? This episode is brought to you by thethinkHolidaySale.com. Now, this is 80% off of our brand new course bundle just for you. The Think Holiday Sale is helping you get to your first 1,000 or next 1,000 subscribers and beyond without a fancy camera, editing experience, or spending 50 hours a week on your YouTube channel. You're going to get the real and actionable strategies speaking to the main obstacles that are standing between you and your YouTube success. We're talking about overcoming the mindsets that are holding you back from conquering your fears of getting in front of the camera, and you're going to learn how to film, edit, and upload your videos with our powerful, fast-acting strategies to help you gain subscribers right now. You can get all of this and more over at thinkholidaysale.com, where you're going to see 80% off during this holiday season. So make sure you go there if you're ready to get your first or next 1,000 subscribers. Now, this episode is actually part of a 5-part series that we're doing here on the podcast, and we are in episode 3, the third part of this series. We've already talked about the law of preparation, the law of momentum, and today it's about the law of sacrifice. So if you missed those other 2 episodes, make sure to go back and listen to them. But stick here first because this one is going to be amazing. Now, the first part of this episode is actually a snippet from a talk that Sean did at our annual conference, Grow with Video Live. And if you want information about how to join us at that conference live in Las Vegas this year, go to growwithvideolive.com. I'll make sure that's down in the show notes as well as the description below. So the first part is actually from a talk that Sean did there. And the second part of this episode, we're actually, Sean and I, sitting down and going deeper into what this season actually was like for us. So make sure to stick around for that part. And we're going to be talking about the hardest season that I had to go through on my YouTube journey and the part that people really quit at. So I want you to stick in, stay locked and loaded, and then I'll meet you on the other side of this conversation.
The law of sacrifice. You see, during this season, I went all in to a defined sacrifice season. The truth is, there is no success without sacrifice. Real leaders, listen, give up more than others. They just do. Real leaders sacrifice more than others. It's the cost of entry. And I mentioned that between November and December 2015, I posted 52 videos. Now again, I shot every single one of those videos. I edited every single one of those videos. I VRA'd. You got to learn. This is why I was in the preparation season. I was figuring this out. I was strengthening my content creation muscles, tags, titles, description. And I also wasn't cutting corners. If you look at them, they were thoughtful, polished, like they weren't perfect, but I was putting out quality, and not just random. I wasn't hitting a metric of like, oh, 52 is a magic number. It was 52 videos, listen, following the 7 R's. Every time I followed the 7 R's. I followed the 7 R's with a mastery of intention. Title crewed them, thumbnailed them, and I was creating blog posts for them for some backlinks and building out our video influencers blog, which I would write extra copy and text in the blog post, and I'd create a blog version of the thumbnail for that. I would send out the Video Influencers weekly newsletter and a Think Media weekly newsletter. Sean, did you have Melissa writing your newsletter? I wish I just had Brian from the Think Media team. There was no Brian. There's no Melissa. There was Sean Cannell. I'm writing the newsletter. I'm editing the videos. I'm editing the thumbnails. I'm scheduling to upload them. Then I'm going to sleep with no energy left, and I'm getting up the next day and being like, man, I got to hit. This is where Rise and Grind came from. I got to grind these coffee beans up, dog. Come on, sacrifice season. Let's go. I researched and set up some mini brand deals for Think Media. I got a 5K brand deal through all negotiation. It was actually beyond the influence at the time, from being at events and networking and talking to people. And we work with a company called FameBit, and it was actually all in relationship. It wasn't on size of influence because everything was much smaller at that time. Went on a tour with that money to LA. My wife and I got in a car with our friend John, drove to LA. Cool trip, worst trip of our life. I mean, everyone's canceling on us. Like, we're hustling. We're driving. We're staying in hotels. The hotel has bad air conditioning. We're all sleeping in the same hotel room. My wife and John, and we got, people that are snoring and stuff's happening. Like the air conditioning doesn't work, like real stuff. And maybe you can relate to this. I'm talking about the real grind, friend. This is what's happening during these 2 months. Flew out later to LA again. During that time, I did a side freelance project in South Africa because I needed money. Also kind of cool, but not that tight. Like, you fly to London and then South Africa in seats that are not that great. I'm still recovering from like the neck and back structural things that happened literally on that trip, and that's true. And I emailed SoundCloud artists to get dope music. There wasn't Epidemic Sound. There wasn't. There was no royalty-free. I don't think the YouTube library existed at this time. And I shared most of the content to the best of my ability on social media, freaking hustling. I'm not here to flex, but I am a little bit, huh? But I'm here to say, do you need to lean into a sacrifice season? It reminds me of what Dave Ramsey says, that if you will live like no one else, later you can live like no one else. Dude, my life's pretty sick today. It was cool then. In fact, what's interesting is I actually just live off gratitude and thankfulness no matter what the season is. There was like a shield of grace around me during that time where I was tired, but I was like, man, this is it. I actually, as soon as I lost my freelance clients, I kind of felt like it was Christmas Day because I no longer had a boss. A lot of us are driven by independence and wanting more freedom and not wanting to be micromanaged in and I was like, I don't know if this is going to work, but hey, let's just go for this thing. But I was putting in some really hard work. And with a vision, and here's the key, because this can be taken to an extreme of toxic hustle culture, of toxic, like, you got to grind all the time and never sleep and sacrifice your health. That's not what I'm saying. Key word, sacrifice season. It's a season. And when you have that time to take the leap, this is what it takes to do a startup. When we say YouTube entrepreneur and business owner, business owners know that a lot of times it takes 5 years for you even to get momentum and have any kind of freedom from your business. Those first 5 years are the grit, are the grind, are the build, and then you're reaping later. And that's a lot of times when people sometimes they get jealous or envious of where you were then, but they would never be willing to pay the price that it took for you to get there. But I know you're willing to pay the price, because the point of Grow with Video is to prepare our minds for battle right now to say, shoot, I think I can lean into the sacrifice season. It's just a season. And I see what it takes. And here's the beauty of this. This is the line that this is where most people get stuck. They go, oh, this is actually going to take work. I'll never forget. I remember this one guy. Don't have very much respect for him. Kind of spoils the story. I should have said at the end. It would have been like, it would have hit harder. But anyways, a guy that I just kind of knew, and one time, and he purchased VRA. So it was this huge thing. So we have a course called Video Reiki Academy. I love this story. And he DMs me. He's like, hey, I heard about your YouTube course. I'd love to get in. And I was like, yeah. So I actually spent a lot of time because he was kind of an acquaintance. And then eventually he's like, you know what? he goes, I want to take the leap and I want to buy it. Now, hear me. We have a refund policy. We honor it. You've been in the course. You know the course is great, whatever. But this, I'll never forget because I invested a couple hours of like DMing back and forth. I think we talked on the phone, and then he finally buys it. And then he messages me a couple weeks later, and he goes, hey, I got a refund. You got to give me the money back. Give me the refund VRA. And he goes, and I was like, okay, of course, it's kind of no questions asked, but I'm curious why. And he goes, well, I got inside of the course, and I realized that this was going to take work. What did you like? Yeah, what did you think it was? Like, did you just, like, what kind of internet mythical age? Or this is not like unicorns and like rainbow spitting clouds. Like, where are you at? Of course, most people, this is why Thomas Edison said success is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and it looks like work. So then I was just super annoyed because I was like, I wish you just would have never joined in the first place and all of that, whatever. And your reasoning, it would have been one thing if he's like, I just understood, didn't quite fit right. But literally, you want to offend the guy who sacrificed blood, sweat, and tears to build something. Friend, you got to commit to doing the work. Write it down. Do the work. You don't have to build, you might understand I'm pretty crazy ambitious. I've got big dreams, I've got big vision. But this is possible for you, and it's gonna take big dreams and big vision to get to a $3K a month business, $6K a month business, to build a consistent YouTube channel. But friends, the rewards on the other side of that initial work you're gonna put in, they're worth it. They're worth it. You just gotta understand the law of sacrifice. So what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice comfort and get uncomfortable? Are you willing to sacrifice the approval of others and other people's understanding of what it is you're building? Are you willing to sacrifice lesser things? Things that just maybe don't matter as much, don't matter, or they just don't matter for a season? Are you willing to sacrifice temporary pleasure? If you spent half the time or no time scrolling, it might be time to delete some apps off your phone because, again, you're not going to growth hack your YouTube channel with an Instagram account. You're just not. You're not going to growth hack your YouTube channel with some other social media. I'm not against it. We could talk about that. But again, when you really get focused, like you got to ask yourself, are you just spending more time scrolling and are you just watching junk content, entertaining content, news that's just freaking you out, information that's just causing you more stress that you can't change? How's it helping you build your dreams? And I'm saying a sacrifice season. What are you willing to sacrifice for a season? You'd be shocked what's on the other side of a couple months of freakish discipline and focus. You'd be absolutely astounded by what you can accomplish by making a radical shift. Sometimes that's what our life needs. Not just a few small tweaks lead to giant peaks, hashtag Sean Cannell. You sometimes actually need to jar yourself out of complacency, jar yourself out of comfort, and for a season, build real momentum with your YouTube channel. The law of sacrifice. I mean, I think this is where it really gets real. Mm-hmm. Of course, we want some external thing of what are the thumbnail hacks, what are the algorithmic tricks. If I get just a viral video, I don't want to deal with any of the painful things. Mm-hmm. What can I do on the side of hacking YouTube? But this is really where the rubber hits the road when it goes to being full-time on YouTube. What are you willing to sacrifice for your dreams? What are you willing to sacrifice for a season? And I think we should put a disclaimer out there that both of our values are aligned, our whole company. There's certain things that you will never sacrifice. You don't sacrifice your family or your kids or your health, but there's maybe a season where you're not spending 2 hours a day in the gym because you're not focusing on bodybuilding in that season. You're focusing on maintaining your health, but building your business. You're not spending 14 date nights in 7 days with your spouse. you're saying, hey, honey, let's come into alignment to really get around some things that we're going to sacrifice. What are some things for you over the last really decade that you think about that you were willing to sacrifice for really where we are today in Think Media?
Yeah, and this even goes back to where we were on the last episode where we were talking about that 25% rule. And when I think about when we actually took the leap into going full-time on YouTube, when we decided to be a part of Think Media on a massive level, and I say we because my husband supports what I'm doing here. And when I think about that, we were quote unquote living our best life, meaning my husband had just gotten a job, a huge job with a big promotion. We had just got a house, the biggest house we had ever lived on a golf course. We were, doing all the things, right? All the things that I thought were what we wanted for success. But I knew that in order to make what the reality of YouTube for us really happen, we were going to have to downsize our life because we were living to the top of what our income was, right? There wasn't anything extra. There wasn't anything to be able to say, no, when we take this leap, we need to have some margin built in there. And so for us personally, we moved. We downsized our house half the size with 2 kids at the time. We have 3 now. We decided we just Dave Ramsey'd it, meaning like we just sold everything. We sold TVs, we sold snowboards, we sold anything that was in our garage that we were like, how can we just get a hold of cash so that we can actually take this leap, so that my husband can leave his job, so that I can be full-time on YouTube, so we can do this as a thing. And some people aren't willing to do that. We actually soberly evaluated where we were, and we could have just kept doing what we were doing and been completely comfortable. But we needed to get uncomfortable in a season so that we could build something of bigger impact. And so, sacrificing even just the outward appearance of a great life. We really downsized and we just said, I don't need to shop at Target. Let's go to Goodwill. And we were making good money. And we said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to downsize. We're not going to eat out. We're going to get a coffee maker at home, Heather, so you don't go to Starbucks. Like all those pieces monetarily were what we sacrificed. When I think about what I sacrificed in the season of building, I don't really watch a lot of movies. Not that that's a bad thing, but I would rather be spending my time in a learning mode or a doing mode. We would say no to going on trips with people or going to do things on the weekend and all of those pieces. And that's the stuff that people don't see. And it's hard and It sucks. Actually, right now, our family could have been in Disneyland. But I was like, no, we need to shoot these podcasts. That was a sacrifice. And it's still in the season. And it's just weighing the pros and cons of what is actually your priorities for building. How about you?
Well, I just think that the downsize hack is one of the hacks.
Yeah.
Or making sure when your income even goes up, that you don't increase your living at the same time. People put unnecessary stress, or it's freedom of choice. Do whatever you want, but they create when you increase your living and you increase your expenses, and then you also say, well, I also want to build my YouTube channel, but you have all the stress. You have to take overtime at work still, as opposed to maybe scaling back your hours at work so you have more time to work on your side hustle. Man, I just absolutely love that downsize hack. Sonia and I have tried to do the same.
Yeah.
We only recently, for less than a year, we've been homeowners. Besides back during The Big Short, we've been renting way before even when we hit targets at Think Media, where we could have been like, oh, now let's start having some outward symbols of success.
Right.
We just didn't go into that. But even in those early days, keeping your expenses low, thinking about, can you downsize that car? Can you move into a smaller house? Because the question is, what is the vision? If you really want to be full-time on YouTube, what are you willing to sacrifice today for tomorrow? We mentioned the Dave Ramsey quote. If you will just live a few years, that's a big word, years of your life like no one else, then for the rest of your life, you could live like no one else. And so, that reminds me, there's a proverb, it's really well known in the Bible, that says where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint. And another translation talks about when you don't have a vision, there's not discipline there. I think the thing with this sacrifice season is if you're not clear on where it is you want to go and the light at the end of the tunnel, then you won't pay the price today. If you don't get really clear about the 6-pack abs that you want, then you won't eat the salad today. I'm not very clear about the six-pack abs apparently, because I'm not eating the salad today. But I was clear that I wanted to be full-time on YouTube. I was clear of wanting to be able to have that freedom. And so I would ask Think Media podcast listeners, what is your vision? Like, even feel it a little bit. Imagine what's it going to feel like when you can not only get up and do the work you love, but when you actually get past the sacrifice season. It won't be this way forever. You mentioned it. We're still sacrificing today, but it's a whole different vibe today. It was like chaos, wondering if we were going to survive, praying, like, I just hope we can keep. And now with where the team has gotten, where some stability has gotten, certainly we are comfortable financially now.
Yeah.
We were not comfortable at all. We were terrified financially at that time.
Yeah.
Sacrifice season. Therefore, you don't. If resources are tight, every resource counts, and you don't want to be wasting, money on unnecessary things. What's your vision? Jesus, he said it. It says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. He had a vision for the saving of humanity, and that we would be reconciled to him as sons and daughters, and so he was willing to endure the cross. What's your cross? What's the cross you need to carry today? What's the sacrifice you need to face today? Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, I said a lot of them in that talk, but could be comfort. You're right. It wasn't Netflix and movies, but today we were just spending all lunch during this shoot talking about the shows we're binging or whatever. It's a different season now.
Absolutely.
We still pay the price, because if you need, in leadership, if you want to go up, you got to keep giving up. And sometimes that's giving up rights, and sometimes that's giving up what other people, but nevertheless, there is a particular season in that gap between 9 to 5 and full time, in that gap between your part-time job and full time on YouTube, between that gap of really making this thing work. And sometimes you got to sacrifice.
Yeah. And I think it goes down to just the law of focus. When I think about even like Tony, the director here at Think Media, producer here at Think Media, I remember when he said he wanted to join Video Ranking Academy, and he said, we actually just looked at our bills and we said, we're going to just cancel all, like, what if I spent the money that I usually spend on Netflix and Hulu and these other things? What if I spent that for a few months until I could start making some money, or maybe a year, but when I can start making some money on actual YouTube education, because that's my dream, you know? And when I think about even that sacrifice season and what it felt like immense focus, and everything else was no. I mean, health is important. I sacrificed a lot of sleep during that time. I still had 2 little kids that I was homeschooling while we were doing this. So a lot of times it was, during the nap times, in the morning, getting up super early. I hate waking up early. Still, I hate it.
Yeah.
But it's a sacrifice of knowing that if I can have 2 hours of focused, intentional time to figure out the next video idea, to figure out what the cost of the course should be, to figure out or make the thumbnail, that is 2 hours that I'll never get back. And I want to make sure that I'm sacrificing in small ways, because each one of those small things, small tweaks do lead to giant peaks. But but definitely in that sacrifice, it's just immense focus that you have to have.
And I like that you brought up Tony, because, if people don't know his story, now he is the executive producer at Think Media, but he joined Video Ranking Academy, went through it all twice, too. He didn't just join an online course. He actually committed to it, went through it, bought a plane ticket. Him and his wife came to Grow with Video Live in person, and it set off a series of events. Even before they joined the team, they started getting momentum on their YouTube channels. Plant-Based Kitchen puts out a video that ranks in regards to the Airbnb space with affiliate marketing at the time. Like, it's really impacting his stuff. By the way, if it wasn't for those signals of him putting in the work, he wouldn't have even made it onto the team in the first place, because he was an action taker. And so he was living the law of sacrifice. It kind of brings up too, like, who's in your world? Because you mentioned this is very hard. It's very hard when everyone around you is going on vacation, but you aren't. It's very hard when your circle of friends just bought the 20 newest model of a car, when they just added a pool to their backyard, probably leveraging disproportionate debt, but who knows? That keeping up with the Joneses thing can really mess with you. We are, I feel, insulated, because Think Media's culture and our ethos is like the law of sacrifice. Like, I respect Kyle Anderson so much, because just recently he just got the sickest Jeep Rubicon. But there's so much blessing on that car, because he's been driving a 2021 Subaru car for 2001. Yeah, not 2021. He corrected me here. 2001. The car is 20 years old. Subaru Impreza. Paint 2.5 RS. Paint is chipping off. 200,000 plus miles. And every single time I see that car, I'm like, respect, dog. Because the interesting thing is so many stages along the way. Easy, you can go. Any of us can go right now. Oh man, I just need that new level up, man. I'm going to go to a car dealership, get into a payment. He has kept his living low, and there's another level of gratitude when you reach certain places. You know, I heard one guy put it this way. He said, "Don't eat for breakfast what God intended for dinner."
Come on.
I think sometimes we rush into an inheritance gained too early won't be blessed in the end. Now hear me, like get whatever car you want, I guess, get whatever house you want, but people take on too much stress when they have too much debt, too many expenses. And when you're doing a startup, a YouTube channel, YouTube entrepreneur, a business, it's about funneling laser focus. You're funneling your money, your time, your resources to create momentum, the theme of the last episode, that then gets you, you're sacrificing all your resources in one direction to hit that breakthrough moment. And back to vision. What is your vision? Because we saw what we're happening to. We didn't know exactly it was going to look like this, but we did know what we were fighting for. We were fighting for freedom for our families. We were fighting for financial freedom. We were fighting for the ability to work on our own time, to be able to continue to still work hard, but to take time off and whatever we want. We make our own schedule completely. We were fighting for doing something we love and making an impact. We were fighting for being able to work in a culture where we set the culture and it's not dictated by some boss or corporate where it's like, man, this is kind of toxic here. Like, I don't want to go to work because the environment, we get to create the environment. And so what are you fighting for? If there is no vision, there's not going to be discipline.
Yeah.
But the reason you'll have the discipline to endure the cost and the cross and the sacrifice today is because you've got a clear vision of what you're fighting for in your future.
Yeah. And you said it, and I want to just reiterate this, write this down again. Do the work. When you're in that sacrifice season, do the work, because just because you're sacrificing, we see that too. Oh, well, I mean, I'm not do the freaking work, and you're going to see the fruits of that labor. But when you're in that season, for us, it definitely, and I think this stems for all creators, it comes down to financially, where are you at? What can you sacrifice? How much time and money can you be putting into your vision? And then just go for it and do the work and commit to the work.
And it's funny you say money, because a couple weeks back on the podcast, we broke down that study of 1,400 full-time content creators, and they discovered that the median income they had invested in their business was $10,000. That's also the sacrifice of dollars.
Yeah.
The sacrifice to buy a camera, to invest in coaching, to buy a course, to buy a standing desk and a web camera and lighting and all. But you mentioned it actually, on the other side of focus, you can come up with $10,000.
Yeah.
Even if you don't earn $10,000 more, you trim out some things of your life, you reduce your living, you decide to shrink 500 or 1,000 square feet in your court. Like, just what are you willing to sacrifice? And how serious are you about the target that you're going for? Man, the law of sacrifice. I'm loving this series.
So fun.
And I'm pumped. We got 2 more weeks where we're just going through these pillars. And again, I want to encourage the Think Media podcast community. We are so serious about our mission to get you to full time, but we hope that you feel like we're telling it straight. Like, this isn't good marketing.
No,
this is horrible marketing. We're like, hey, here's the secret to go full time: painstaking sacrifice.
Yes.
Here's your path to full time. Pick up your cross and carry it through the valley of death.
Do all the hard work and see no fruit from it for 5 years.
For years.
Yeah.
Do you want a magic pill? 5 years later. But I mean, this is the real stuff. And this is the fastest growing small business type.
Yep.
This is absolutely a real destination that you can put out on your calendar. But I hope that you're hearing the nitty gritty of, man, what it really takes to get there. So stick with us. I can't wait for these next 2 weeks in this series and to get into the next one soon.
Well, I hope that conversation left you with something to think about. And I have a question for you. What are you willing to sacrifice in this season? Is it comfort? Is it the approval of others? Maybe actually feeling that there's things that are in your life that don't really matter, that you just need to get rid of. You need to sacrifice those things so that you can stay laser focused on what your goal is. Maybe it's the temporary pleasures. Maybe you want to do a 30-day social media detox so you can just focus on actually creating rather than consuming. What do you need to sacrifice in this season? If you have a journal out and you're actually taking notes during this session, I want you to actually think about that. Maybe take just a few minutes to really think about, what do I need to sacrifice so that I can get to my goals? Now, if you're driving in the car, just think in your head, don't pull over, just keep going, but really be thinking about this over this next week of where do you need to sacrifice so that you can reach your goals. Now, I want to say thank you to all of our Think community members who are over on iTunes and rating and reviewing this podcast. It helps us so much to be able to get this podcast into the ears of those who need to hear it. I want to thank Anti-Drew today, who left the comment, value, value, value. The Think podcasters are providing tons of value, dropping YouTube gold, all caps, in every episode. If you're interested in building your business on YouTube or building a YouTube business, this is the podcast you can't miss. Anti-Drew, thank you so much for saying that. That is really our heart behind this. We want to help you build a YouTube business. We want to help you build your business on YouTube. It's really what has changed our lives, and we just want to help and inspire and encourage as many people as we can to do the same thing. Now, I have one more special announcement for you. If you made it this long in the podcast, you are my favorite person. Can I just tell you that? Because you're listening still to this special announcement, and that is we are hiring here at Think Media. We have so many positions available right now. Our team is massively growing. We have full-time, part-time, and paid internships available at workwiththink.com. If you've ever thought about being a part of a movement of creators, being a part of a team that is uplifting, inspiring, and encouraging, then this is the right step for you. We have positions in creative, admin, PR, and so much more. So make sure, if you're interested, to go to workwiththink.com so you can apply today. Now, I want to thank you so much for being a part of our Think community. Thank you for listening. If you didn't catch the first 2 parts of this series, make sure to go back and listen to those. The law of preparation and the law of momentum are so powerful. And then next week, we're going to be jumping into the business side of YouTube. I can't wait to see you on the next podcast, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Did you see thinkmediasale.com? For the holidays, we're giving you 80% off our brand new YouTube Made Simple course bundle. Get over $1,900 worth of our best courses, tools, templates, and more. Just go to thinkmediasale.com.